Hello and welcome to this Q&A from the Fertility Alliance. And today we're joined by Lauren and David, who are going to tell us a bit about their experience and also about their podcast, The Baby Making Business. So welcome, Lauren and David. It's really lovely to have you with us. I wondered if you could start by telling us a bit about the background to how you came to be in the position of needing to make a podcast in the first place.
Yes. Well, it was kind of born out of necessity, really. So when we first were told or discovered that we needed to have fertility treatment, there was not a lot of information out there, like readily available, or even if we went to search for it, we found ourselves kind of really in the dark about a lot of things. And slowly but surely, having been through one round, four transfers, too many miscarriages, we've kind of picked up a lot of information on the way. And the baby making business was born out of our desire to perhaps try and impart that information onto other couples that are just starting out, that are just sort of trying to locate the information that they need in the forest of nothingness that is infertility.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
And I think as well, I think that the fact that we're still going through it and we're still learning, and there's with the fertility world, I think once you're dropped into it, it's something that most people have never experienced or really had to talk about. So all of a sudden you're just parachuted into this arena of such overwhelming information, and you're trying to absorb it all at once. So we also wanted people to feel that it's important to know that we still are panicking. We still kind of,
oh yes,
oh God, what does that mean now? And there's
yes.
new things we figure out every day. So the feeling of overwhelm and panic is completely normal. And even though we're 3-4 years in now, we still feel that every day. There's new information.
Yes, we're by no means experts at all.
So we wanted to do it in real time to kind of talk about what that is, what that journey is, because a lot of people have spoken about their experience, but in retrospect. So they have, a clear, concise way of talking about it, and they can filter the information that they want to impart to people. But we are kind of just splurging it as we learn it. And
it was also important to us to do it together as a couple, because we found that there were, as limited information there was for women, there was even less for men, and even less support for men going through this. And it obviously it primarily affects us physically, women physically, but it affects you a huge amount also. And you felt like there wasn't really a lot of sort of people out there, men out there, talking about it. So that was another reason we wanted to do it as a couple.
Yeah, because I think the classic male reaction to it, and I'm being very generalized here, is stoicism and, quietly getting on with it and supporting your partner in the best way you can. And I'll worry about my feelings later. That's certainly how when we started, that's certainly how I felt. And I just tried to kind of do what was best for Lauren, and I'll worry about me later. But it's that thing of kind of putting on your own oxygen mask before you can help anyone else. You have to try and be right within yourself as much as possible. And it has taken me a long time to get to the point where I need to work on how this is impacting me. And it took me quite a long time to find other guys. And I have to give a mention to the Male Fertility Podcast and Sean and Kieran. Sean is called Knackered Knackers on Instagram.
We love them.
And I think they are doing some of the best work in the male space, and I think they're fantastic. But it took me a long time to find them, because it's just not really, there's not that much out there.
Yeah, they're our partners. We work with them a lot. So I'm glad that you found them to be really brilliant, because we think they're absolutely fantastic. I wonder if you could tell us a bit about your own journey. How did it start, and where are you up to now?
Sure. Do you want to start? Or
it started with we lived in the States for a long time. So about 10 years ago, Lauren was diagnosed with PCOS. And we hadn't really started officially planning to start trying. But there was stuff around your periods and stuff at the time. So yes, you got it investigated and she got diagnosed with PCOS.
But that was literally it. You have PCOS. Okay, off you go. and there was no kind of like, what does that mean for you moving forward? And my primary care doctor in the States sort of said to me, you know, well, are you planning a family? And I said, well, not right now. And he was like, oh, don't worry about it then, just come back when you are. So then we kind of like didn't really think much about it until we started trying for a baby and realized it wasn't happening, and then had to start navigating this whole world of, you know, infertility treatments and sort of the whole world basically.
Yeah, and we started on the NHS pathway and quickly we're not on that pathway anymore. It was for a multitude of reasons. It was quite traumatic, and we also because there's male factor stuff going on as well. I have bad morphology, so we are likely to need ICSI, or that will just increase our chances. And for the most part, that's not available on the NHS pathway. So
it wasn't in our borough.
Not in our borough. So we knew we had to go private. So yeah, we went private, and we picked a clinic kind of close to us, and it all seemed kind of okay to start with. We were like, yeah, they're good, they're solid. And we, you know, kind of the geography of it was something that was definitely a factor, because we didn't want to be driving for 2-3 hours at a time because there's so many appointments. And I know that people do that for the right clinic, and but for us, we were like, we wanted to minimize stress, because stress is such a
well, we thought we were minimizing stress.
We thought we were minimizing stress.
Turns out this whole thing is very stressful.
Yeah. So we had one egg collection with those guys, and we ended up with 4 viable embryos, and we froze all because Lauren had OHSS, to add more
to it, yeah.
And so of the 4 rounds, the first one didn't stick, and then 3 miscarriages. And this kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier on about, you know, there's so much that we're learning. Once you have 3 miscarriages, you are then you are able to see a miscarriage specialist at on the NHS. So that's what we did, and only then did we get a diagnosis for Lauren for lupus anticoagulant, which is a blood clotting disorder, and would go quite a way to explaining why we miscarried those 3, because obviously the nutrients in the blood and oxygen and everything isn't getting to the embryo.
Yeah.
But we only got to that point after going through 3 miscarriages. So again,
which is traumatic anyway, but having those embryos in knowing that we can't conceive naturally, and sort of burning through those embryos basically to hit your magic number of 3 miscarriages, and then we'll investigate. It's just soul destroying. But once we got that diagnosis, we felt more informed, we felt prepared, and we've taken that and David's diagnosis, which also wasn't flagged up by our clinic, to this new clinic that we're now seeing in Greece, who seem to be taking everything that we're saying very seriously. They're doing a lot more diagnostics and a lot more investigation before they will consider transferring any more embryos. And so we're just about to go into our second round, our second egg collection.
I wanted to ask you a bit about the emotional impact of all this, because just hearing you talk about it, that's a huge amount of stuff to go through. I mean, what's it been like for you as a couple?
I mean, I don't know. It's I think because we're talking about it on the podcast a lot, sometimes I guess we're used to talking about it. So I guess sometimes we forget what each of those, you know, especially the miscarriages and especially the first one, because the emotional impact, it was around Christmas.
It had to be surgically managed. It was brutal. I mean, it does affect us.
Yeah.
We're quite we could definitely do better at sitting in the discomfort. I know that about me. I'm very much kind of like, right, let's just, what's next? Move on. Come on, like, you know, not stiff British upper lip, but that kind of, you know, let's not wallow, and no one knows what to say to you anyway, and it makes everybody uncomfortable, and so you almost feel like you kind of have to make a joke of it, not a joke, but make light of it and move on, and everyone can just pretend it's not happened. But it is like brutal. It's really affected our kind of what's the word I'm looking for? I'm also on 3 injections of hormones a day at the minute, so my brain is like scrambled eggs, and I keep forgetting really basic things. This might be a terrible question and answer for you. I was going to say it really affects our kind of morale and our ability to be hopeful about other rounds, or next transfers. You kind of find yourself saying, oh yeah, well, it's not going to work, is it? Or there's no point doing that yet because it isn't going to work. And both my sisters have saved, love them, loads and loads of baby stuff for me. And every time I've got pregnant, they've said, should we bring it over? I said, no, because it's probably not going to stick around. I'm not going to need them. And I feel like that's kind of tarnished us in that way.
Yeah, because it's
like, at what point are we going to get excited if this works again?
Yeah, we almost couldn't believe it when we for that first positive test, we almost couldn't believe it. And then there's an element of worry, especially as you go into your second and third positive tests, like the second and third pregnancies, because you want to be hopeful, but you're still traumatized by something that happened only months before.
Yeah.
So there's so much of how much of the upset and how much of the emotional pain can you realistically sit with and process in real time, because you're kind of like, look, time's not on our side. I'm 42, Lauren's 39. We have to keep going. So I guess it's like going to battle in a way, or going to war, because we're still in the trenches. So there might come a time where we either have a child or we don't have a child, and it's quiet, and we sit down and we're like, and then it will all maybe hit us then. I don't know, because you have to keep some of the hope. But
it's hard. It's
really hard. And it's also things like the financial impact. That's a worry every day.
Not being able to spend money on anything other than IVF makes you really angry.
Yeah.
Not angry at you, but just angry at the situation.
Yeah, and the impact it's had on things like your social life, or work. I've had to cancel loads of work. I've had to cancel loads of meetings. There's been times where I've been getting on the train to meet friends, and something has happened where I've had to cancel stuff with family. And everyone kind of understands, and everyone's really, really good with it. But it's got to the point now where sometimes you're just like, look, I'd like to do that, but I'm just going to say we probably can't make it. Thank you. And I think there's an inevitable, sometimes, a withdrawal from the world a little bit, as you kind of cocoon and try and protect yourselves. And also, the questions coming when you see people, and it's sometimes the questions are, I've listened to every episode of the podcast, oh my God, what about this? And they'll ask something really specific. And then sometimes there's a question like, so what is IVF? And you're like, mate, I do not.
I haven't got the brain space.
I haven't got the energy for you today for this. I'm so sorry. Yeah, so it's it's a lot.
People often say when they're talking about having fertility problems, it's incredibly isolating. I mean, is that something you've kind of described that, but is that something that you feel has happened to you?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. In a number of ways. I mean, our friends that have children now kind of say to me things like, is it okay if I send these pictures on the WhatsApp group? Is this insensitive of me? So they kind of pull away. And then, yeah, the other aspect of, people don't understand that. And I can't afford to do that, even though it's a very small little thing, but that is 2 blood tests for me, or, that's a box of Gonal-F or whatever. So you do withdraw socially as well. But I think for me, where I found it the most isolating is that people just don't understand people that haven't had to go through it don't understand. And a lot of people think that IVF is a guaranteed baby, and it's not.
Yeah, and we also have kind of friends who have listened to the podcast, and we've talked to them about it, and then they've kind of said, "Oh my God, I didn't realize you'd been through so much." But then you kind of go, "There's not enough time in a dinner when I see you once every other month to go through all of this, because
and you don't want to bring them down. You feel like you don't want to bring all of your woes to, a dinner that you get to have with your friends once a month. And
yeah, you don't want to be a Debbie Downer, and sometimes you'll find yourself at these things, and you're wincing because you don't really want people to ask, because you don't want to feel like you're monopolizing the conversation again. Oh, here they are talking about IVF again, and you can feel a bit like a burden, because you don't want it to define you. And sometimes when you see your friends and family, you want to talk about anything but IVF, and then they're doing the right thing, they're doing the nice thing by asking how you are. I think asking how you are is a much better way of dealing with it as a friend, rather than saying, "How's the IVF going?" Because then you're just like, I can't. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I was wondering whether you think there might be an element in the podcast of it being quite therapeutic for you.
Definitely. We said this the other day, because we spend a lot of time, any couple going through IVF spends a lot of time talking about logistics and finances. And, okay, so are you going to be around for that appointment? Okay, no, but could you zoom in? And, can you do this injection for me because I hate doing it? And, all the logistics side of things. We never really talked about the emotional side of it. And now having the podcast and sitting across from each other, facing each other, talking in each other's eyes about how we feel about it has been strangely cathartic in a weird way. It's something that you don't ever, it's a luxury that you never really grant yourself otherwise. So for me, it has definitely been some form of therapy. I don't know about you.
Yeah, and it's, sometimes after an appointment or a disappointment or a test result, you don't want to sit there for an hour and talk about it. You just kind of like, I just want to go home and watch Yellowstone and zone out, or Married at First Sight, or whatever.
I do. I want to talk about it. This is where we're different.
but sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're just kind of still kind of
reeling,
just upset and reeling. So it often comes a day or two after we've had, most of the sessions that we record where it's just Lauren and I, we record when something has happened.
Yes.
When there's new information to impart. And it definitely helps us get into the weeds on it, because what else are we going to talk about?
Yeah.
So it forces you. It is almost like going to see a therapist, and you find yourself, like in therapy, sometimes I'll be talking to Lauren or she'll be talking to me, and a penny will drop, and I'll be like, oh, I hadn't realized that. And it's just in real time, it helps us to process and to gauge how each other are feeling. And I certainly feel closer to Lauren after we record. She probably hates me because
no, same.
Because Lauren will be talking about really articulately about really kind of heavy emotional stuff, and I'll sneak in a joke, and I think that can be frustrating sometimes. But yeah.
Had either of you ever had any experience of podcasting before?
No, me, nothing. I mean, I consume true crime podcasts like it's going out of style. I'm obsessed, but never done anything like this before. I'm very much, David's an actor, so he's kind of like used to, being a bit more outward facing. I am completely the opposite. I'm terrified of it. I don't want to put my face on the internet. I hate the sound of my own voice. It's awful. So for me, it was a completely new venture. You talked me into it because you've done a couple.
Well, our friend Eleanor as well, who is a producer on the podcast, she produces podcasts. And we were talking to her about it one day, and she said, you guys have to do a podcast about this. Because what Lauren has left out as well is that as an actor, I crave the joke. I crave the laugh from the joke.
He's a comedic actor for sure.
I want to do the joke, and I go, did everyone hear my joke? Lauren is so funny, and she will just drop a joke and walk away and not care about if she gets a laugh or not. She doesn't give a crap.
I don't think you're allowed to swear.
And also, then you have come to the wrong people. I've done a lot of podcasts as a guest, so I'm quite happy to do it and quite comfortable. It's also forced me to learn how to edit, which is fantastic. And it's also what I'm also learning as you listen to it, as you edit, is your little idiosyncrasies in the way you speak. I'm like, oh my God, I've said 57,000 times. But generally the feedback that we get, and I know this, but Lauren doesn't believe me, is that for me, kind of doing the gags and needing the laugh, Lauren, so many people have messaged and said, she's so good at this and so natural, and her voice is so good. And she's just taken to it. She's just really taken to it quite easily. And I think some of that comes with the fact that, like, at the moment, we've got our laptop on 2 pots of yogurt, and to have it elevated at eye level.
Greek yogurt, though.
Yeah, Greek yogurt. So it's healthy. It's good for your gut. But we just kind of, we started out just muddling our way through it, and it's just a microphone and a laptop and us chatting. And there's no there's no kind of, we're not in a studio.
Yes,
with 8
there's
people
no pressure. We can, and because I love to talk, I'm happy to talk about it. I think that's maybe why.
Yeah.
I get that feedback. If I was talking about something that I didn't really care about, it probably would be very different.
And how's it been going?
Really, like, surprisingly really well. We've had so many emails from people and messages that said, oh, I found, the one that sticks in my mind is the one that said, oh, I found you on the day my last failed transfer, and you just made everything sort of, you just got it, you understood it, and she
said, I stumbled on your podcast because I'll never forget this. I stumbled on your podcast on the day that my final transfer failed.
Yeah.
And you still managed to make me smile.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've had a lot of messages from people saying that it's important what we're doing, and we're kind of not to big ourselves up, but just taking away the stigma, particularly with David talking about, and the Knackered Knackers guys, or Nexus guys, talking about male factor infertility has a huge stigma attached to it. We had another message from a guy who told us that because it was such this sort of deep dark secret, his friends used to tease him at the pub about it, and it affected his ability to be intimate with his wife and all these things, just because you can't talk about it as a man, and it's suddenly this this mark on your manhood. But it's not, it's a medical condition, and having someone out there saying it's a medical condition, it's the same as having diabetes or having whatever, it kind of makes it seem like, oh, okay, this is all right, I'm not this terrible man who should be struck from the face of the earth. We've also had a lot of companies reach out to us. We've had we're talking to a couple of people about sponsorship. We're doing a lot of like cross pollination with other podcasts, and it's only been going for 7 weeks.
Yeah, and I'm used to working in a really competitive industry with acting and theatre and all that stuff. So I was expecting that again in this space, but it's been completely the opposite.
Everybody is so supportive.
Everyone has just been like, come in.
Yes.
It's sad, but the water's warm. Come and be, everyone's just really reached out, and they've said, if you ever want to chat, or if you ever want to come on the podcast, or if you ever want to meet up, I'm going to meet up with some of the guys from Nexus, and it's been an unbelievably welcoming,
and we're really enjoying it.
Yeah, we do really enjoy it. It's really nice, and I will say this on the male factor thing. I had one friend who I knew that had gone through it, who came from the standpoint of male factor infertility, and having him just kind of lead by example.
Yes.
Having him lead by example just made me go, I want to be like that, because that has helped me. And I just made the decision very early to just be like, why is there shame? There just doesn't have to be. It's like anything else. So just making that decision really early on. And for a lot of the guys that I've spoken to, they've said once they reached out and told 1 or 2 or 3 friends, then it just kind of opened them up, because they realized that the chances are people aren't going to ridicule you, especially if they care about you.
Yeah, and if they do, they're not the kind of people that you want in your life anyway.
Yeah.
I think that's very interesting, because I think with a number of these sort of interviews that we've done with people with lived experience, one of the things that they say is that once they start talking about it, it actually makes it easier rather than worse. And I wonder how you feel about being so kind of out there with fertility problems. Was that a decision that was hard to take or not?
Not for me, because I think PCOS and then later on discovering that I had this lupus anticoagulant is more talked about than male factor infertility. And I'm very open about it in our circles. There was, when we very first started, there was a time when I would sort of run things by you before I put them out on the internet, and you were like, oh, I'm not sure. And then there was one day where you were like, do you know what, actually, why not? Why wouldn't I just say that? It's the truth. Why wouldn't I just say, yeah, I'm taking this supplement because I have low morphology, or whatever, whatever the post was, I forget now. So I think it took you a little minute to get to, if I'm going to do this, I have to be open.
Yeah, there was, from my point, there was just a little concern about, is this going to impact my job, and how I'm perceived in the industry? And then I just realized,
which is a problem in itself, the fact that you're even thinking that.
I was like, who cares? Like, my job's not perfect, and sometimes, I don't work for a few months. No one's going to listen to a podcast and go, we were going to cast him, and now we're not going to cast him. Like, it's nonsense. And it took me a couple of months to get to that point. But once I was there, it was just like, we just cracked it wide open. And it was really liberating, doing it. And I mean, the response to the first episode alone, I was like, the only regret I might have is trying to keep up with the messages and the emails and all of that. I was like, I don't know if we can do this, because it's becomes a job, and it's a job that you love,
a full-time job. Yeah.
But we put a lot of time and effort into it. But yeah, once we started, it was just,
you've got to be all in
for a penny and for a pound. Yeah.
Well, you're doing a brilliant job, and thank you so much for speaking to us about it today. It was really lovely to talk to you both, and really appreciate your honesty, and hope that the podcast goes from strength to strength, which you can already see it is. So thank you so much.